Hello, and welcome. Tonight, we invite you to step back, not into a time of legend or grand adventure, but into the quiet, muddy rhythm of ordinary life. Centuries ago, this is not the Middle Ages of fairy tales or gleaming castles, not the stories sung by bards or etched into stained glass. Tonight, we'll travel far from the stone halls of nobility and settle into the earthier, slower world of the medieval peasant. Close your eyes and imagine the faint flicker of firelight on rough wooden beams, the gentle clatter of clay bowls, the low murmurs of neighbors wrapped in shawls against the chill. The air smells faintly of wood and something less pleasant, an odor you can't quite name, but that belongs to this world entirely. Tonight's journey unfolds in 4 parts. First, we'll begin with the lives of ordinary peasants, their work, their homes, their hopes, and small miseries. Then, we'll travel through a quiet disappearance, the fading of a village struck by the plague. Next, we'll descend below the castles of the highborn, where archaeologists uncover the forgotten clues of daily life. And finally, we'll look up into the lofty world of knights and nobles, where ceremony and dirt coexist in strange, glittering harmony. So now, let the weight of the day slip from your shoulders and drift with me into a time where life moved with the seasons and the pastures were never truly silent. Imagine yourself waking to the soft rustle of straw beneath your body and the first glimmers of light slipping through a tiny wooden shutter. There is no clock, only the sky and the crowing of a distant rooster. Time here is not counted in hours, but in tasks. You are a peasant, more precisely, a serf, bound not by chains, but by obligation. The land is not yours, though your hands have shaped every inch of it. You rise not by choice, but because the fields await, and the Lord expects his due. Your home is a small wattle daub hut, walls smeared with mud, a thatched roof above that leaks when it rains. The floor is earthen, sometimes strewn with reeds or rushes to absorb the worst of the damp. Privacy is a rare luxury. You live with your family, and sometimes your livestock too. A chicken, perhaps, a pig. They're not pets, but part of the economy of survival. There is a fire, of course, smoky, low, and eternal. It smolders even through the night, barely warming the room. There is no chimney, just a hole in the roof where the smoke sluggishly risses or sometimes does not. You learn to live with smoke in your lungs, with soot in your skin. Clothing is rough, wool or coarse linen, patched and repurposed across generations. There's rarely more than one set, and washing is infrequent. Water must be hauled by hand, and soap, if you have it, is made from rendered animal fat. There are no mirrors. Vanity is not a useful trait. Your day begins with toil. The land demands attention, and so does the Lord's steward. You owe labor 3 days a week on his fields, plus a share of your own crop, plus eggs, wool, a piglet perhaps. There are dues for marriages and births, and even for dying. Tools are simple wooden plows, iron-tipped if you're lucky. Oxen move slowly, but they are stronger than you, and you will walk behind them all day, pressing furrows into the soil that resists you with every clump. The work is endless, and yet it must be done again and again. Sowing, reaping, threshing, winnowing, each task tied to the rhythm of the seasons. There is no automation, no mechanical relief, just hands and time. Meals are sparse. Potajan, ever-simmering stew of grain, and whatever you can find. Some cabbage, perhaps, a piece of dried fish, if the trade was good. You might own a chicken, but you rarely eat it. It lays eggs, and those are more valuable than meat. Bread is the cornerstone, dense, dark, sometimes baked with rye and ergot, a fungus that brings strange dreams or illness. Holidays exist, of course, holy days, dozens of them, when you rest and drink and sometimes dance, but even these are governed by the church, and your joy is often short. You may be summoned to tithe, or to listen to sermons in Latin words you don't understand, but which you've learned to fear. Illness is part of life. A cough can linger for months, a cut can turn septic. Childbirth is dangerous, and few survive into old age. Still, the village elder may have seen 50 winters, and that makes him something of a legend. The rhythm of peasant life is not one of progress, but repetition. Children do as their parents did. The village looks the same from year to year. When strangers arrive, it is news. When the Lord rides past, it is spectacle. When the weather shifts, everything trembles. And yet, There is community, a bond formed by shared hardship. Neighbors help rebuild a roof after a storm. Women gather to spin thread. Men share tools and ale. There is laughter, even coarse and sudden, like a spark in the gloom. Music from a wooden flute, the low thrum of a drum made from stretched hide. There is joy, but it is humble, fleeting. Like warmth on a cold morning, and when night returns, so does silence. You lie again on your straw, listening to the breathing of your family, the distant howl of a wolf, the drip of water from the eaves, and sleep comes, not as a luxury, but as a necessity, is the rhythm of their lives, a life not of drama or glory, but of constant, quiet endurance. Now, let us drift forward to a different season. The fields are quiet now, still, as if waiting for something that never comes. Picture a village small, unassuming, like so many others, a cluster of timbered homes with smoke curling faintly from thatched rooftops. Or perhaps not at all. A footpath, worn by generations of bare feet, leads to a chapel that tilts slightly from the dam. There's a well at the center. A few chickens once pecked in the dust. A carved wooden cross leans at the edge of a burial ground. But today, this place is silent. No voices, no movement, no smells of bread or dung or fire. Only the wind, pushing gently through grass that has begun to reclaim the path. You may never know its name. So many such villages faded from maps, from memory, from history itself. This disappearance didn't come with fire or sword. It came on a breeze, in the fur of a rat, or hidden in a barrel offloaded at a port. It came quietly, but it would not leave quietly. It was the plague, the Black Death, the pestilence that swept across Europe in the 14th century moved faster than any rumor, and far deadlier than any army. It began with swelling under the arms, at the neck, then fever, then darkness. Villagers, who once feared the Lord's tax collector or the next poor harvest, now watched their neighbors fall, then their kin, and finally, themselves. The fields went unplowed, the bread went the bells of the chapel rang less and less, and then not at all. Some tried to flee, though there was nowhere to go. The roads were filled with fear, and many towns barred their gates. Some believed prayer would save them. Others blamed the stars, or strangers, or sins they could not name. But death came just the same, and one by one, entire villages, like this one, emptied. What is most haunting is how the silence remained. Years passed, then decades. The timber rotted, roofs caved in, grass grew where children once played. Only the stone of the chapel lingered, and the graves, and even these were eventually covered by time and earth. Centuries later, when archaeologists happened upon the faint outlines of such a place mere discolorations in a farmer's field, or pottery shards turned up by a plow, they found no records, no names, no final toll, just the suggestion that once a village stood here, that once lives were lived, hands wove baskets, babies cried, songs were sung, and then all of it was gone. It's tempting to imagine a single survivor, a girl, perhaps with a red scarf, wandering through the empty cottages, calling for someone who will not answer. Perhaps she left, perhaps she stayed. We cannot know, because what the plague left behind was not just death, but forgetting. The memory of this place was not carried forward in song or script. It was carried only by the land. And even the land, eventually, forgets. And yet, somewhere deep below the soil, in the compacted layers of time, a broken comb, a pewter spoon, a child's tooth with a hint of decay, these whisper of lives that once moved through this space. You may never know their names, but tonight, in this quiet hour, you can imagine them. A family at supper, a man tending sheep, a woman humming softly while she weaves. They were here, then they were gone, and the wind still blows gently through the fields. Now, let us move upward and then downward. Imagine the outline of a grand stone castle perched on a low hill, its towers soft by centuries, once a symbol of authority, of power. It now rests in quiet dignity, moss spreading along its crumbling outer walls, birds' nests where banners once flew. But tonight, we are not concerned with the halls above. We are going beneath the stones, beneath the layers of time, beneath the narrative of kings and battles. Because even in castles, where nobles once dined in candlelight, where knights walked with pride. Life left traces that were not always so noble. Imagine stepping into a narrow space between fallen stones. It is cool here, shaded, damp, and filled with the smell of old earth. This is where the archaeologists work, slowly, patiently, brush in hand, notes on paper, every inch of soil turned over with the tenderness one might reserve for relics of a loved one. And in many ways, there they find fragments, a shard of painted tile, a rusted hinge, a glass bead, perhaps from a lady's sleeve, and further down, stranger things. Let us begin with the latrines. Yes, even in castles, nature called. Imagine a chute built into the outer wall, angled downward toward a cesspit or moat, known as a garderobe. It was a place of necessity, and now, centuries later, it is a place of discovery for what was discarded. In Juris, here, archaeologists find seed sterries, plums, figs swallowed whole, passed through and preserved by time. There is evidence of barley, rye, and wheat, all staples of the castle kitchen. Sometimes there are buttons, coins accidentally lost in a moment of clumsiness, and parasites, two tiny fossilized eggs of worms that lived inside the guts of the elite, a quiet reminder that wealth did not protect against everything. Farther in, beneath the kitchens, the debris is rich, bones of animals, pig, sheep, and goose-bearing, the cut marks of butchery. Some pieces are scorched, others were split, marrow extracted. Nothing wasted. There are broken cooking pots, their handles worn smooth, clay pitchers glazed in deep browns and soft greens, sometimes a copper spoon, bent and discarded, and deeper still, skeletons, not always buried with care. Some lie haphazardly, perhaps workers who died during construction, or prisoners, or simply forgotten souls laid to rest in the shadow of stone. Their bones whisper of past injuries, healed fractious arthritic joints, teeth worn flat from a diet of coarse bread and grit. They do not speak in words, but in the slow language of decay. Occasionally, something unusual emerges. A carved toy horse, worn smooth by a child's hand, a comb made of bone, its fine teeth still intact, a seal used to mark wax, its symbol eroded, its message unreadable, and in rare cases, graffiti, etched lightly into stone by servants, by guards, by scribes, a name, a rude drawing, a symbol of a bird, perhaps, or a fish. These small rebellions, hidden away in the crevices of castles, now see daylight for the first time in centuries. Each layer of soil tells a story not of great events, but of small, repeated acts. The crackling of fires, the clatter of bowls, the scrape of boots, the hum of kitchen work, and the silence afterward. Even the grandest castle was a place where people lived, and where they relieved themselves, where they lost things, broke things, hid things, and the archaeologist, in their steady, methodical pace, uncovers it all, not with haste, never with haste. The past resists speed. It prefers to be unfolded, slowly, brushed gently from the dark, like a memory returning in fragments. So as you lie here, in the quiet of your room, imagine the hush beneath a castle, the soft scrape of a trowel, the rustle of earth being sifted. There is wonder there, even in what was discarded, especially in what was forgotten. Now, let us turn our gaze upward, from the commoner's field, from the crumbling village, from beneath the castle stones. We rise into the world of silk banners, polished boots, and the low clink of finely forged steel. It is morning in a manor house, or perhaps a castle. You are not a peasant today. You are a knight, or rather, you are becoming one. It is not as glamorous as it might seem. Imagine yourself waking not on straw, but on a raised bed, wooden, sturdy, perhaps draped in woolen blankets. The room is drafty. The window has no glass, only a shutter. The air smells of wood smoke, drying leather, and cold iron. You rise early, though you may not dress yourself. A squire boy of about 14 will fetch your garments and assist you. Dressing is an act of ceremony, a padded gambeson first, then chainmail if it is a day of training, then the cuirass, the greaves, the gauntlets, one piece at a time, each strap tightened, each buckle checked. It is heavy and it pinches. A full suit of armor might weigh 40 to 60 pounds. Not unbearable, but every step is deliberate. and the helmet restricts vision and muffles sound. Breathing becomes louder, more noticeable, as if you're always just a little too warm. But before the armor comes the morning. Breakfast may consist of bread, soft cheese, a poached egg. If you are wealthy, perhaps some salted fish or preserved fruit. A servant brings a basin for washing. A small mirror-polished piece of metal may reflect your face, though dimly. You spend your morning training, not with glory in mind, but with repetition. Sword play against a dummy, riding drills in a muddy paddock, jousting practice with a lance that hits a spinning target. The smell of horses is thick in the air. Leather, sweat, damp, earth, and always you sweat. Armor is polished, but the man beneath it perspires. By midday, you might oversee estate matters, peasants bringing in a grievance, a steward presenting accounts, documents read aloud by a clerk. You nod, you sign, you issue a ruling, then, perhaps, leisure. Falconry, with a leather glove and a bird of prey on your wrist. Hunting in the woods with longbows and hounds. A game of chess with another nobleman. These pastimes are structured formally, yet they are moments of calm in a life otherwise defined by duty. Honor, after all, is not merely a feeling. It is a code, a weight heavier than it governs how you speak, whom you marry, how you pray. And yet, beneath the surface, discomforts remain. Bathing is rare. Perhaps once a month, a wooden tub is brought to your chamber, filled by hand with warmed water. You sit in it, knees drawn, surrounded by the scent of herbs, meant to mask the stale odor of your body. The water cools quickly. You do not linger. Your clothes are finer than a peasant's, yes, but they itch, and their dyes sometimes irritate your skin. You wear wool, linen, depending on the season. And beneath it all, the armor waits again, for the world expects you to be ready, to defend, to ride, to kill, if asked. You may never draw your sword in true battle, or you may, once, and regret it forever. In the evening, you dine in a great hall. Meat, bread, wine, a bard sings, tapestries flutter. The warmth of the fire reaches only those closest to it. Servants move quietly, eyes lowered. You speak in formal tones. You toast your lord. You nod at your peers. You laugh, but only at appropriate moments. And later, you return to your chamber. A candle burns low. You remove your boots. Your armor stands in the corner like a silent guardian. You lie in bed, the mattress lumpy despite its feathers. Your sword rests beside you. You sleep, though not always peacefully, because even knights, even lords, know fear of failure, of shame, of death, but also of irrelevance, because the world turns and banners fade, and one day the armor will rust, the castle will crumble, the name will be forgotten, but for now, you sleep, heavy with duty, wrapped in silence. And so, we return, from muddy fields, to vanished villages, to forgotten artifacts, to candlelit halls in clinking armor. We've walked together through centuries, in quiet steps. The medieval world, for all its hardship, did not move quickly. Life was slower, rhythmic, repetitive. The same sun rose, the same chores returned, the same fears lingered beneath the surface. For the peasant, life was measured in harvests, in tolls, in aching joints and cracked hands. For the noble, it was governed by duty, appearance, and the heavy silence of expectation. And for those who simply vanished lost to plague, or poverty, or time itself, their stories remain only as fragments scattered beneath our feet. And yet, despite the years, despite the dirt and the dust, there is something familiar here. The rhythm of work, the comfort of repetition, the small joys of a hot meal, a song, a child's laugh, the quiet ache of wanting something more, and the quiet peace of simply enduring. Tonight, as you lie in your own bed, with walls that don't leak and warmth at the touch of a switch, know that you are part of a long, unbroken line, a line that stretches back to muddy shoes and wooden spoons, 2 candle stubs and cracked bowls, 2 fields plowed by hand and nights passed in silence. And while they may not have known you, you now know something of them. So let that knowledge settle. Gently let the weight of their lives, softened by distance, rest quietly in your thoughts. And let the hum of the past, the rhythm of their lives, lull you deeper into rest. You are not in a hut. You are not in armor. You are here, safe, warm, still, and somewhere Out in the quiet fields of history, the night goes on. Good night.